All right, so here we go. Moment of truth. Walking out the door to see Spider-Man No Way Home. I love these Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I'm expecting it to be good. Will Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up? I mean, it would make sense. Their villains are in it, so it would make sense if they showed up. But you know what? If they don't show up, I'm not going to be super disappointed. I'm planning to go have fun. So let's see this movie. Let's check it out. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin and... Shoot, sorry. I'm used to doing it alone.
I'm Laura, the wife.
And this is our spoiler talk review of Spider-Man No Way Home. And of course, we're going to give it that Christian perspective. This is going to be a really interesting one to dive into. I ended up having to really see this movie twice before sitting in front of the camera. Yeah, she only saw it once. But I'm glad I did, because there was things I didn't catch at all the first time that I caught this time that I am now prepared to talk about. And I can't wait to talk about that with you and my wife. So,
It's gonna be fun.
Let us know in the comments right now. Did you like Spider-Man No Way Home?
Hello, Peter.
So let's just kick this off. Our overall thoughts and letter grade that we would give this movie. Laura, you're the guest. You go first.
Well, it was a solid A. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was a ride the whole way. I don't think I ever was really bored.
Yeah.
So it was a good time.
Solid A for me, too. Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This dude makes me cry. The emotional journey he can take you on with his facial expression stuff is amazing. Yeah. And that's part of, to me, what is the heart of this movie. So I'm also giving it an A. So my first category of spoilers that I want to talk about, I've entitled this: Big surprises that weren't really surprises at all. A lot of fans had a lot of theories about certain things that were coming, certain characters that were going to cross over into this, and for the most part, I think everybody was right. And one of the biggest ones that I think Laura and I liked the best...
Matt Murdock!
Yes!
I was so excited when he came onto the screen because I love the Daredevil show. So I'm just... I mean, I was so excited to see him because he did such a great job. And I mean, we knew he was becoming part of this universe because in the last Hawkeye episode,
yes,
we saw a picture of Kingpin, but you know, there's all the rumors, but they tried really hard not to let anybody know, but yes, I'm very excited.
She is. And honestly, I am probably more excited about the Matt Murdock cameo than anything else because that Daredevil show was absolutely fantastic.
Good.
So to see it all legitimized and brought into the MCU is like this tremendous reward. So first to see Vincent D'Onofrio brought back.
Yeah,
it's
only
like,
in a shot, but I'm thinking we're going to see him in the Hawkeye. Is it the Hawkeye or
it's just Hawkeye?
But we're going to see him more in that show. I hope.
Yeah. So that part is just
my gosh,
really.
What if Daredevil makes a cameo in Hawkeye? This is like, I mean, he was in it for what, like 2 minutes, but it was probably my favorite sequence. And there was no action except for he got a brick and Tom Holland just looks up and he's like,
how did you do that?
How did you do that?
I'm a good lawyer. That was really great.
Yes, I agree.
It's super exciting to have him come back. So that was a big thing, and that was something I think a lot of people predicted, a lot of fans said that was coming, and we were right. Matt Murdock was Spider-Man's lawyer, so it was very cool to see that and have that little crossover. So that's big surprise number one. Number two, I think, is all of the villains, because they were showcased in the trailer. So
you knew they were all coming, all of them.
Yeah, but I loved how they used the villains. Now, I want to address this first before we get into how they use the villains. So I think some people have, this opinion that perhaps it's like Spider-Man 3, where it was too much. And let's be honest, there was a lot.
But we've met them all before.
Exactly.
We already knew their backstory, so we didn't need any backstory.
Nope.
We just needed them to be who they were.
Even if you thought their origin was weak in one of the other movies, it doesn't matter because you knew who they were, you knew their origin, and we didn't really have to sit with any of that, and we didn't have to relive any of that. One of the things that I thought was cool is when they started going over, when they realized they disappeared from their world and came over into the MCU world. And so I think the most intriguing one, because when we watch Spider-Man 2, we know that Doc Ock becomes repentant.
Listen to me now.
Like he sacrificed himself to destroy his fusion reactor and all that stuff.
To save the city and
Yeah, so it was a sacrifice he made. And so what was kind of cool is it feels like we get more of an arc and more of a character arc to that sacrifice in this because...
I won't.
That's when he's beamed over into our world. So we get him still being a villain and still being bad, but then we get this really cool character arc where we see him become a good guy.
Really cool use of nanotech.
Oh my gosh.
How Peter used it to stop his arms. Loved it.
Yep, how it paired the devices.
That was
pretty. It was pretty genius. That Tony Stark is a freaking genius. But little things like that were great. But what I loved is all of the villains they brought over. It felt like they picked up where they left off from where we last saw them.
Yeah, we hear them all explain that too. It's like, well, wait, but Doc Ock. But he knew Osborn was dead.
Yeah.
And so when Osborn came on, it was like one of those moments where it's like, wait a minute, there is something legitimately weird going on.
You're flying out into the darkness to fight ghosts.
What do you mean?
And one of the things I thought was cool was bringing Electro over, because in Amazing Spider-Man, he was blue. We watched the trailers, and he looks more solid and yellow lightning, and it's like, if this is the same Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man universe, why is he so drastically different?
It's because her energy's different.
Yes, and I loved that. That was such a great explanation. Just electricity and the energy is slightly different in the MCU than it was in the Sonyverse with the Amazing Spider-Man. So that was, in my opinion, a pretty cool explanation and a way to show the differences between the different worlds and the universes. So that was something that I thought was really well done. For the most part, we got actually really cool character arcs with these villains that were really entertaining and really good, and we didn't have to spend time on all the stuff we already know. So we didn't quite get the Sinister Six. We got the Sinister Five, but it was awesome. Yeah. This is probably one of their best kept worst secrets because we all knew it was going to happen. The Spider-Men. I mean, come on. You can't bring the villains from their movies in there.
Without them.
And this is why I get mad that superhero movies are not part of the Academy and can be nominated for Academy Awards and why they're so snooty over there. Because seriously, some of the best performances I think I've seen in a long time were in this movie. I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit, but you have Tom Holland's Spider-Man, his loss, and the emotions that Tom Holland takes you on. But then you have Andrew Garfield showing up.
Who's still dealing with his loss of Gwen Stacy.
Yes, and then he talks about it, and you're watching him get all choked up and his facial expressions, and then Tobey Maguire getting into what he's been through.
Yeah, his emotions weren't as big to me as the other two.
But that makes sense. He's worked
older,
through it.
He's worked through it longer, so...
Actually, I still think his acting was great because he is the one that has worked through it the most. And one of the things I liked is when Tobey Maguire comes through, I liked how his Spidey sense worked. Because he could tell that the Spider-Man of this universe needed his help. Yes. And that was...
And he watched the news. He knew there was a Spider-Man of this universe, and he's been trying to find him.
Yes.
Kind of like Into the Spider-Verse.
But I like that it was kind of like Into the Spider-Verse, but also different.
Yes.
So there was enough that was different that separated it that I thought was really cool. And I loved it when all three of them... Well, I mean, first off, when they're all trying to create their cures for all the bad guys, that was a really fun scene. I felt bad for Ned. Talking to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and finding out that their best friends kind of, betrayed them.
Well, wait. Andrew Garfield's best friend?
Well, wasn't Andrew Garfield's best friend also Harry? And then by the end of that movie, Harry became the Goblin?
Yep.
Right.
I mean, it was really Gwen Stacy was his best friend. Harry was an old best friend that came back.
Yeah, but then you have Tobey Maguire's Harry who, tried to kill Tobey Maguire and then ended up dying in Tobey Maguire's arms. Yeah. And kind of the trauma that put on Ned's face, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, Ned's just like...
Yeah, so I enjoyed, all of that when you brought all three of them in. And the other cool thing, again, this is like the villains, you didn't have to go over their origin stories, and you didn't have to go too deep because we've already been through the thick of it with them.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, again, picked up where they left off, except for Tobey Maguire. But I was happy to hear that Tobey and his MJ worked it out.
Yes.
That made me happy.
Again, that felt like a pull for Into the Spider-Verse.
And I gotta throw this out here because... I was not a fan of the Raimi trilogy. I like Spider-Man 2, but otherwise the Raimi trilogy didn't really connect with me. And yet, I was squealing like a child with joy when Tobey Maguire jumped through that portal. I was squealing like a child with joy.
What blew my mind is both of them just walked through the portal like, oh, I guess that's where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
I'm like...
Well, Andrew Garfield, they're like, hey, Peter!
That's true.
And he's like,
oh,
what's up?
They must know me. But, oh, man, when I saw him, Andrew Garfield was like... the perfect side of this crazy emotion, and then he was cracking me up. I I really like The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He did not get a trilogy, unfortunately.
I know.
But I really like
He needs one now. Come on, Sony. Finish off The Amazing Spider-Man.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, my gosh.
They got Holland. Well, we'll see how.
What was cool, though, it was funny, Toby and Andrew talking, and Andrew's like, well, I'm the boring one. I've never been to space or fought an alien. And Toby's like, no, let's circle back. You are not the boring one. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Yeah.
You're amazing. You get it?
But
the Amazing
that
Spider-Man.
Whole sequence where he's like, I've never been to space. I want to fight an alien.
Those little moments were so
great. They were great.
But then I think my favorite moment, and there's some pretty emotional scenes in this movie, but for some reason, this one is always the most emotional. Seen it twice, and this was the most emotional. When MJ is falling in slow motion, and it's the repeat of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 when Gwen was falling and Peter was coming after her in slow motion. I loved it because there was Tom Holland getting closer, his hand was about to catch hers, and then the Green Goblin just hits him and moves him out of the way, and Andrew Garfield is on it. He is not reliving that nightmare. And I wish they took a little more time with this, did a little bit more slow-mo with him. That would have been cool. But he quickly catches her and lands, and the raw emotion on his face that he actually caught her.
He saved an MJ.
Oh,
for him,
gosh.
his Gwen.
Yeah. But the fact that he did it this time. So talking about really good character arcs, I loved how Andrew Garfield talked about he's been pulling his punches less because he's been dealing with grief and bitterness, and he doesn't want Tom Holland to be bitter. And then to end this film with him coming down the building fast, catching MJ and landing with her, it was this great, I think, moment of cathartic victory for Andrew Garfield.
Definitely.
So I like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, including Amazing Spider-Man 2. So for me to actually see that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed Andrew Garfield's performance.
I mean,
Tom Holland was fabulous.
Yeah.
He did an amazing
So was Toby.
job.
So was Toby.
But Andrew, he shone a little bit for me.
Yeah.
He shined.
No, he shined. He was the shining in this one. He did.
So great job.
Yes, he did. Now, something else I really liked about this movie was the Doctor Strange dynamic. And I think what's really fun is watching Doctor Strange versus Spider-Man, because I don't think have we ever really had such a clear picture of how powerful Peter Parker really is.
Yeah.
So the fact that Doctor Strange hits Peter out of his body, but his body without the soul still has the Spidey sense, and he's trying to get the box with the spell in it, like, that was pretty slick to see.
It just shows his Spidey sense keeps working even when he's not in his body.
Yes! That was awesome. And then, I don't know if you noticed this, so when his spirit was outside of his body, right, and you got kind of that clear aura around him, it was the comic book lightning things, that was his Spidey sense coming out of his head.
That's so cool.
I didn't notice it until the second time, but it's like those things you start to notice when you're watching it again. It's like, I can actually see his Spidey sense working. That was really cool. And I love the Mirrorverse fight.
Yes, 100%. And I love that Tom Holland Spider-Man realized, oh, this is just geometry.
Yes.
And so he showed how incredibly smart he was against a man who is incredibly smart.
And magical.
But it's, this is where Doctor Strange's pride gets in the way. I think he's like, there's no way he can figure this out. I'm like the smartest man alive because,
this is my Mirrorverse. I control this.
Mirrorverse.
Yeah.
Maybe he never realized it was basic geometry when he was inside of it because he was too beyond that.
Yeah. So it was very cool to see Tom Holland's brain in action, to really emphasize how smart he is. But it was also very cool to kind of see his Spidey powers. And so to see him going against Doctor Strange and the cape and all of that, like, that whole sequence was just so awesome and so cool to watch. Then, just going right off of that, when Tom Holland locks Doctor Strange in the Mirrorverse and Ned gets the sling ring, the fact that he could open a portal, that's a big deal.
Hey, Doctor Strange couldn't open a portal for the longest time.
But and Ned does it on his first couple tries, and so the fact that Doctor Strange...
Makes you wonder that there's going to be some kind of connection there later, because guess who still has the sling ring, because Doctor Strange never took it back.
We got to assume off screen he took it back. We got to assume.
No, we don't.
Yeah, but we'll get into this in a little bit later.
Doesn't matter.
Because it's like, if they all forgot about Peter, how much do they retain of what happened in their memory of their part in it?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a whole weird thing.
So does Ned still have the sling ring? Does he still have memories of working with Spider-Man, just not knowing it's Peter? And does he remember opening the portals and seeing the other Spider-Mans? This is going to be weird because
I have no idea how this will work.
Yes.
Because, I mean, so if they have no memory of Peter Parker, they have no memory of him growing up at any of the schools.
Right.
So we see in the end shot when he's in his apartment, which I'm pretty sure is Tobey Maguire's apartment in the original trilogy.
Yeah, I think so.
He has a basic GED book, like how to pass it. So I'm wondering if he had to basically create a whole new, I mean, he's still Peter Parker, but a whole new persona, or like had to do everything from scratch. I'm not sure. It's kind of weird. So.
Yeah, no, that is kind of weird. And it also, depending on what they remember, so do they only forget Peter? And do they only remember Spider-Man? Because if they only remember Spider-Man, you'd think they'd remember the times they fought with him and helped him.
Yeah.
You would think they'd wonder why were we helping him and fighting him. But the other thing they would wonder is, okay, they don't remember Peter Parker, but didn't they see the other Spider-Man without their masks?
Yes.
And, call him Peter or something. So I don't know. There's things about the spell.
Yes, so the 3 Spider-Men.
That I can nitpick, but I'm hoping we get another movie that goes into this a little bit deeper.
Well, and, at the very end, after all the credits, you get a tree view.
I'm Groot.
No, that's exactly what you just said. How is that even possible?
Preview of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I wonder if they'll try to figure out how to fix all this there.
Now that would be really interesting. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. The next thing that is really heart-wrenching, the death of Aunt May.
Well,
did you see that coming?
As soon as she said, with great power comes great responsibility, I'm like, well, she's dead. I'm like, that's the line that you say right before Spider-Man's aunt or uncle passes away. So as soon as I heard that, and then boom, she was out.
I went through phases of denial. So when the ship hit her,
I thought she was out.
I thought she was dead then.
Yeah.
And then when she got up and started walking, I went, oh, good.
I'm like, how is she moving?
I don't understand how she's moving, but I don't want Aunt May to die, so I'm just gonna block that memory from my mind. But then when she fell back down, that's when I went,
uh-oh.
No, you're not. You're
I know, but
not.
you know what was hard for me? Tom Holland's reaction was great, but I didn't feel any emotion until Happy drove on the scene and Happy saw her there, and Happy was yelling at Peter to get away because he knew this was a bad spot for him to be in, even though he knew it wasn't Peter's fault. But it was just, like, Happy just, his face. Jon Favreau, great job. I mean, there wasn't even tears or anything, but you just had this absolute look of horror and sadness on your face that just, that one, I felt it.
I felt that too. I kind of felt it both ways because Tom Holland somehow always makes me cry. Yeah. So I was really sad when we lost Aunt May and really mad at Green Goblin. But then when Happy drove up, that was just the icing on the cake of all the sadness that I was feeling after such a great action sequence before. And one of the things that's so cool is the development of Peter Tingle, his Spidey sense. I love that because he was just learning how to use it in Far From Home, but now we got to see it go so next level that when Osborn made the switch and
he could hear the heart rate change.
I didn't catch that.
I'm assuming it was his heartbeat because he heard some kind of tingling and something different.
It was the Peter Tingle. I think that's what the Spidey sense does.
But he heard something. He was like, what is that? And he just followed it and he saw Osborn and realized.
But did you notice? I didn't notice this till the second time I watched it. So did you notice? He didn't know it was Osborn until he closed his eyes and followed the Spidey sense. And then he shot the web with his eyes closed and it was Osborn. That was pretty slick. But
I'm sorry, Osborn?
Peter, you're struggling to have everything you want.
So good!
Oh my gosh, Willem Dafoe.
Oh my gosh,
so
William
good.
Dafoe. And all I can think of every time we say his last name is Willem Dafoe.
How I Met Your Mother.
How I Met Your Mother, if you've seen it. But he is, his switch from being this, sweet, lovable, kind of, something's wrong with me.
Senile old man to dark, demonically possessed dude.
And honestly, he has the face to be a demonically dark dude, like the big smile that he does as a Green Goblin. He was excellent.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. And actually, it made me think of this. The fact that they cured him at the end, and then he got sent back. What if he got sent back to that moment where he's being impaled, and that's when he looks up and goes,
"Don't tell Harry."
What if that's why now? Now you go back and you revisit the original movies, and you got to look at them differently. Is this why Doc Ock changed in the end and sacrificed his life because of what the Peter Parker in the other world did for him? It kind of raises these questions, and it's like that. is kind of cool.
Yes, but they not healed Sandman, but they got Sandman so he could be a solid form again.
Sandman's character arc was done.
I forgive you.
Yeah.
So his thing was done, so this was just going to that next level of it. So that was kind of interesting still, but the ones that die, it just kind of makes me think about that for a second. So,
I'm curious to know what happens in their universe, but I've got a feeling we're not going to see that.
I have a feeling we're not going to see that either. The next thing that was cool was Peter's sacrifice. And I think it gave Tom Holland's Spider-Man a really amazing character arc. Because the way this thing opens... What?
Amazing. Sorry.
Oh. Anyway, I think it gave him a great character arc. Because they say this in the trailers, they say this a couple times in the movie.
The problem is you trying to live two different lives. The longer you do it, the more dangerous it becomes.
And, you get it. You feel for him because it's that good heart. He wants MJ and Ned
and he wants
to get into college to MIT. He doesn't want his reputation as Spider-Man. Did he kill Mysterio to keep them from school? So that is really interesting and already cool. It's funny because when he's talking to Doctor Strange and they botch that whole spell, and Doctor Strange points out, wait, you came to me to brainwash the world before you pledged your case with MIT admissions? Because he's thinking from a place of fear, he's acting out of a place of fear, and he's trying to set things right, but he's not doing the right thing. MJ actually brought it up when she said, why didn't you come to me first? I mean, we could have brainstormed a couple of things before we broke dimensions and brought other people in here. And it made me think of Matthew 6:33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be provided for you. Then Luke 12 says, don't be afraid, little flock, because your Father delights to give you the kingdom. So what I like about that is that both of those verses come after Jesus talks about worry and fear, and he's giving everybody reasons why they don't need to have worry and fear, because God knows what you need. Seek him first. So MJ saying, why didn't you come to me first? Is that same thing. And sometimes out of fear and panic, we don't go to God first. God who wants to give us the wisdom. God who wants to give us the direction. God who has the ultimate plan. The good news is he even knows how to turn our failures around. So we don't have to live in fear, but we need to discipline ourselves to come to God first and to seek him first above all else. And I feel like that was part of Peter's journey because he's not looking before he leaps. He's just leaping. He's not counting the cost. He's not going to seek wisdom first. When the multiverse was cracking open, and I didn't notice this until the second time. When you're looking into the purple, when the multiverse is cracking open, I saw the silhouette of Kraven the Hunter, a Spider-Man villain. Then I saw the silhouette of the Rhino. And so it was...
Okay, I saw the silhouettes. Definitely.
So, I didn't catch what they were the first time. I was like, what are those, aliens?
They were Spider-Man villains.
Yeah, well, then I finally got it. It's like, oh, that's right, because it all has to do with the spell. The spell that got botched, bringing to this universe everybody that knows Peter Parker, they're trying to break through. And so in the end, Peter, instead of trying to have everything, had to make the ultimate sacrifice. I think the thing that gave him the most clarity is when he let go of his bitterness.
Yeah.
When he was about to kill Green Goblin with his own...
And if it wasn't for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he might have.
Did you think Tobey Maguire was going to die when he was stabbed from behind?
Yeah, for a split second, but then, then he's got jokes.
Yes.
And goes, I've been stabbed before.
There's a part of me that wishes that didn't end in a joke. It's not like I wanted Tobey Maguire to die, but a part of me is like, shouldn't that be more serious? We just stabbed the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. But whatever, there was already so much emotional stuff going on that I'm not going to talk badly about that scene. But it was very cool to see Spider-Man save himself. Like, to save Tom Holland from this mistake.
Because he understands the pain he's going through.
Because Tobey Maguire chased down the guy he thought killed his Uncle Ben and watched that guy die, and it brought him no satisfaction. And he knows how that bitterness carries on. And so it was cool to see Peter let go of that bitterness. And it's like his heart was clear, and he knew the right call to make, even though it was the tough call.
Yep.
And I did not like that call. I hated that Ned and MJ don't remember him now. I hate that. It's just so sad.
He's working on him.
He gave up.
No, he's in did you see the apartment he jumped out of? He had the cup of coffee from her.
Oh, good point.
So he's still going to that coffee donut shop. Yes. He's going to run her down and she'll eventually figure it out. Kind of like she said, not run her down, wear her down. I think she already kind of likes him because he knows what to say.
Yeah,
and I mean, she's still wearing the broken black dahlia.
Yeah, she is the one that he gave her in Europe
Yeah.
and Far From Home. So that was really cool to, you know, see little things like that. So I don't know. There's just so much in this movie that to me was so good. It's definitely probably my favorite live action Spider-Man movie right now.
It was fabulous. So good.
So what did you think of Spider-Man No Way Home? Let us know in the comments.
Ooh, and let us know if you think Venom is part of the MCU.
That's right, because he's got that awesome post-credit scene.
Yes.
So is he now part of the MCU? And he doesn't know Peter Parker is
Honestly,
Spider-Man.
How else
did
could he have
called
come
over?
to this world? That's
Right.
exactly it. How
That's
did he
the
get
spell.
here if he doesn't know Spider-Man's Peter Parker? So does Brock, I don't know what his last name is in the...
Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock, thank you. Eddie Brock and Venom, does one of them somewhere know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker? Does Venom have that knowledge from one of his multi-universes?
Sounds like the symbiotes have a
some kind of
universal
hive mind
power.
So yeah, well, he said hive mind in the movie, so that's why I'm thinking
Maybe Venom knows.
Maybe Venom knows, and that's why they were pulled. So is he part of the MCU?
Definitely answer those questions in the comments. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else we do here. I'm Durbin.
I'm Laura.
Thanks for checking out Durbania.